Welcome to the Netherlands, a small monarchical country in Western Europe. The Netherlands is commonly known for its liberal views, being the first country to legalize gay marriage, and its streets of Amsterdam being filled with coffee shops and the scent of weed. Lesser known is the holiday of Sinterklaas, and the traditions that go with it. Similar to the American traditions of Santa Claus, Sinterklaas is coming every year from Spain to the Netherlands by boat. Sinterklaas and his helpers, Zwarte Pete, or Black Pete, come from the end of November to December 6th, the birthday of Sinterklaas. Black Pete sneak through the chimney and give presents and candy to good children. Bad children, however, are given salt instead of gifts and taken back to Spain. In case you didn't catch it in that last clip, here's a clearer picture of the Dutch character, Black Pete. A tradition such as this coming from a country of high tolerance leaves those outside of Dutch culture wondering how such a holiday came to be.
In December, we've got this scandalous tradition of Black Pete. It's the most offensive, the most racist thing you've ever seen. You'll love it. It's great.
Zoals in het oude lied, gewoonweg Zwarte Piet. Wij willen Zwarte Piet, wij willen Zwarte Piet. Zo zwart als roet en anders niet.
But Sinterklaas was not always accompanied by this controversial character called Black Pete. In fact, he was only a recent tradition brought on in a children's tale written by this man, Jan Schenkman. This book, titled Saint Nicholas and His Servant, was popularized in the mid-1800s, where Black Pete appears as a person of color, clothed in attire traditionally worn by Moors from Spain. The conflicting history with this story has to do with the Dutch involvement in the transatlantic slave trade. Between the 17th and 19th centuries, the Dutch were responsible for part of the slaves being traded from the east of Europe and Africa and into the New World. So why is this tradition with such a history so widely accepted and embraced by the Dutch people? The popular opinion among Dutch people is that Black Pete is a tradition. He is a party for children and everybody loves him. If they were racist, why would they celebrate Black Pete? But in 2016 began a disagreement in the sanctity of this tradition. Protests began against the blackface tradition. The disagreement even made it onto the Dutch version of the children's television show Sesame Street.
Hartstikke leuk om Zwarte Piet te zijn. Ja, dan mag je met de zak lopen en pepernoten strooien.
Oh nee, het is helemaal niet leuk. Ik heet Gerda, ook als het Sinterklaasfeest is. Kijk, we begrijpen best wel dat Sinterklaas al zo lang komt. En dat het best wel een vrolijk feest is. Maar voor heel veel zwarte mensen, grote mensen en kinderen is het helemaal geen feest. Nee. We kunnen bijna niet vrolijk zijn.
But if you've ever taken a government class, you would know that protests don't always accurately represent the polls.
Wat vindt u ervan dat Zwarte Piet niet meer zwart mag zijn?
Belachelijk. Verschrikkelijk. Wat ridicuul.
Vind ik gelul.
Of course, maybe you'd expect different answers from the colored population of the Netherlands.
Ja, dus voor mij mag het gewoon blijven.
Laat er dan gewoon een witte man zijn met zwarte strepen op zijn gezicht.
Ja, rode lippen moet gewoon weg, laat ik het zo eerlijk zeggen.
A bit more like this, maybe? In recent efforts to compromise the Black Pete debate, many Dutch people have been choosing to dress up as Black Pete, have abandoned the full face of black, the red lips and the black hair, to more accurately represent the story of Black Pete going down the chimney and losing the negative historical connotations. But that's not the only proposal to this problem. Some Dutch people have even taken it in their hands to replace the entire idea of Black Pete altogether, in place of a more including Pete, a Pete of many colors. So what are other countries' takes on this scandalous Dutch tradition?
They should understand it is racist. They should understand the historical context how and why it came about, explore that. If they understood that, then they would say this should not exist anymore.
Although it can be hard to see this issue from a bipartisan point of view for those living in the United States. Americans, in comparison to the Dutch people, have a long ongoing history with slavery and racism. Blackface having been a popular thing in early television, the Jim Crow character imitating and demeaning African Americans leaves a bitter taste and low tolerance for such acts in more modern-day America. So for Dutch people, with less of a connection to racism, the tradition of Black Pete really could be just harmless and a real example of cultural differences in cultural context. So, what do you think? Are the Dutch people wrong? Is Black Pete racist? Should the tradition be abandoned by the Dutch people? Or is there a lack of cultural understanding? Maybe Black Pete is just a misunderstood, innocent holiday meant only to bring joy to children. It's up to you.